Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to kind of update things on this channel. I wanted to talk about what I personally use in terms of supplements and lighting and how and when I use them, because years ago I did a feeding and supplementing guide, and this really was just a guide. Back in the day I would get messages all the time of leopard geckos in horrendous conditions. They had metabolic bone disease, and it seemed like a lot of people hadn't even heard of supplements to begin with, let alone when and how often you use them. So basically I wanted to make a video where it's very simple, just say what I've been doing and hope the guide will help people. And from what I can tell, it actually has. However, since then quite a few things have changed. So of course the supplements I use have changed, and my attitude towards lighting, in particular UV, has changed quite drastically. Now keep in mind, once again, this is just a guide, this is what I do at the moment, but the reptile hobby is always changing, always evolving. I mean, back in December I was listening to the Animals at Home podcast, and in an episode they were discussing, and I'll link it below, they're discussing the possibility of making something that can mimic the wild more accurately, you know, your sunrises, sunsets, the natural subtle changes throughout the day as per species. So it's really interesting, and I know there are some products out there that do something similar, but I definitely think I could see the reptile hobby moving in this direction, pushing technology to replicate the wild more accurately, and this is very exciting. So what I'm using today could very well change in a few years. Anyway, supplements. Let's look at the supplements I use and when I use them. Now keep in mind there is an array of supplements on the market. Generally, if you're just getting calcium powder is the same wherever you get it from, but not all vitamin and mineral powders are created equally. A decent brand should include instructions on how much to use, how often to use them, but frankly when it comes to synthetic vitamins and minerals, you know, how much a leopard gecko requires versus how much a tegu requires is very different. So frankly, when it comes to synthetic supplements, we're still up in the air a little bit, like you're kind of guessing. Hence why I use natural supplements. So I use Earth Pro A, Calcium Pro Magnesium, Revitalized D3, and Earth Pro CA, which is just calcium, though I will admit I don't use this one as often as I tend to use the one that includes magnesium. So Earth Pro A contains no synthetics, so can technically be used every feed, but if you are going to use this, you do need to use UV alongside it. I do tend to dust most meals in Earth Pro A, but every now and again, especially around the time my female geckos are producing eggs, I will use Calcium Pro Magnesium a little more often. So Calcium Pro Magnesium is, as it says, calcium carbonate with added magnesium. Now magnesium basically helps to regulate healthy calcium storage. It's vital to the calcium phosphorus D3 cycle, and also is great for regulating and maintaining neurological and muscular health. And I keep this in the tank at all times in these little calcium bowls. I got these from a store called Strudy's on Etsy. I know a lot of people ask me about it. They're very good. They do get buried sometimes, but they are good. Now, as I said, I don't use Earth Pro CA, so just calcium, as much on its own. Now I have calcium with magnesium, it just doesn't make sense to me so much, so I mainly use this with my isopods and occasionally with the geckos. Then we have Revitalized D3, which helps to top up those fat-soluble vitamins such as A, D3 and E. This does contain very low amounts though, so you can still use this even if you are using a UV system, kind of like a boost every now and again. Also, it smells really nice. I know some vitamins and minerals really stink, but these, it's kind of sweet. My crested gecko and chihuahua particularly like it because it smells sweet. I don't actually have a set day or frequency for when I use this, but I will use it now and again. And I do find it's a little bit difficult to set out a schedule for adults because you're not feeding them every day like babies, so you can't say, well, I use this for a few days, I use that for a few days. Generally I feed my adult leopard geckos every 3 to 4 days, and as I mentioned, what supplements I provide and the frequency can depend on the time of the year. So say my geckos aren't eating as much, whether it's down to carrying eggs or going into a partial brumation, maybe they haven't really eaten for a little while, I'll probably get them to lick a bit of the Revitalized D3 just to ensure they're getting that little boost. And also this could be particularly good if you've got a new gecko, especially if it's travelled. The stress can mess up their sort of levels, so give them a lick of this or vitamin powder and can help really boost them. Now I know this can all sound a little complicated, but what I'll do is link Arcadia's website below. They do a whole supplement guide and they have a page for like each of these supplements as well as much more, so you can just look into it further if you want to. And by the way, this isn't sponsored or anything, I do just generally use quite a lot of Arcadia's stuff. As for lighting, I will keep this more simple, so I do use a Shade Dweller 7% for all the Leopard Geckos and my Chihuahua, and I use a Jungle Dawn LED bar for my bioactive tanks to help with plant growth. Now, I used to always do 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening with the UV, and during the day the LED will come on. But we've scrapped that. That's kind of outdated now, you know. That's so last year. No, but like, it doesn't really make sense when you think about it because the UV doesn't suddenly go away during the day for the sun. The initial idea was that because leopard geckos would bask morning and evening, it would be a good time to put on the UV, but actually you can keep it on during the day. So the UV now comes on for my leopard geckos and my Chihuahua throughout the day, but also in the tanks that have UV and LED, I've now linked them. So you can do this if you have the Jungle Dawn bar and the Pro T5 kit by Arcadia. And for Diego's tank, his lights will come on from 8:30 AM to 5:30 PM, so that's 9 hours, but of course you can do 10 to 12 hours. You can choose your times as long as it's during the day. When using UV though, just make sure you are providing places for your geckos to hide, so they can make the choice of exposing as much or as little as they like. But yeah, that was my kind of updated version of what I use and when I use it. As I said though, like if you are looking to go into like Arcadia supplements, especially from a baby, you can look on their website and they have a whole supplements guide, so if you are a little confused still, check that out. But just remember, as I said before, not all vitamins are created the same, and some sadly are just thrown together with little research done on them. And though this isn't a supplement, the Hikari Leopard Gecko gel, I did a video on it before breaking down all the issues with the ingredients and how this can negatively affect your gecko, and yet it's still past regulations, it's still marketed to leopard geckos, and we should be able to trust this, but sadly we can't. So, you know, you can have the same issues with supplements or even, you know, crested gecko food. Some of them are really bad as well. So choose your brands wisely. Check out their websites first. Do they have much information on what they're providing? Do they have a guide on how often to use it? Do your research, read reviews, try to find the best for your geckos. I'll leave some product links below. But yeah, I hope this has somewhat helped, hopefully not confuse you too much. If you haven't already, please subscribe. But thank you for watching and goodbye.